On the night of the 25th of April, a star was shining brightly onto a garden at Europort. No, this is not a nativity scene. It's 10 p.m. and this is the entrance to the new Mediterranean rowing club, which barely 2.5 hours earlier had been thronging with over 500 guests for its official opening. 97 years since its foundation, this club, which started life as a splinter group from the Calpe Rowing Club, has finally come to rest beside its eternal rival. It has to be said that there is no finer location than Europort for these two institutions of rowing persuasion. This was the old MRC, a floating boathouse from 1901 till 1911, when it was grounded at Bayside and where it remained ever since. This is the new MRC, a lavish and tastefully decorated clubhouse which belies the £500,000 it is said to have cost. 4 weeks ago, the then Chief Minister, Joe Bossano, opened the club doors and later unveiled a plaque to mark the occasion. Bishop Devlin blessed the building, and the Governor, Sir Hugo White, inaugurated the premises and became its patron.
Having been at sea a bit, I know that there are those who like to stand on bridges looking ahead. I know that those aboard like to be on taffrails looking astern. And I've made a bit of a study out of the different characteristics of the people involved. And I've come to the conclusion that those who look astern are romantic. And I've always thought that rowers have a romantic streak in them because they look at where they've been. And it's usually a well-lit and it's satisfying experience. But I also know that they're brave, because to move at the speed that they move without looking ahead is by definition brave. And it also brings me on to the third point, which is their reliance upon teamwork. I know of no other sport where teamwork is so important. The Chief Minister introduced himself just now as the cox. But you rely on a cox in a boat to make sure that you don't go anywhere unfortunate when you're busy in the engine room, so to speak. But I think you rely on teamwork much more than that. If you get it wrong at all, your performance drops off. So those are the reasons why I admire rowers. The romantic streak, the bravery, and the teamwork. Now, if you look around you, you can see all that reflected in your surroundings. No one can design a clubhouse as upmarket as this without a romantic streak. It's a very beautiful building. I can't believe on the financial side there wasn't a lot of bravery involved somewhere, let alone the bravery involved in the cliffhanger in the last 2 weeks. And you can't produce something like this without a great deal of teamwork, let alone all the endurance and other factors that come into it. I hope very much indeed, ladies and gentlemen, you will thoroughly enjoy these buildings over the years to come. I can't believe that they'll do anything other than stand you all in immensely good stead. And before I ask you to raise your glasses in a toast to the club, I'd like formally to inaugurate the new clubhouse and wish you the very best of rowing in this coming season. Ladies and gentlemen, will you please all raise your glasses and drink the toast to the Mediterranean Rowing Club. Mediterranean Rowing Club.
In its 97-year history, the MRC has raced 42 boats, and another 2 were added to the list when, after the inauguration ceremony, the Bayside and the Westerly were christened by Mrs. Rosemary Latin and Mrs. Deborah Bensadon, the club president's wife and the club captain's wife, respectively. As a matter of policy, the MRC has always seen rowing as its raison d'etre, and this in part explains why they are successful in the sport.
Well, I believe that a great effort was put into rowing and recruitment generally, and the resources and the equipment that we had at our disposal. And this obviously happened since I came in 1987 as captain. Obviously, I've already I'd had already certain experience as captain previously. I had done 3 separate years prior to 1987. But yes, a lot of the effort that was put in was based in getting something in place, and that is why by 1990-91 we started to bear the fruits of all the efforts that we've put in. I need to say that when I describe the whole thing as effort, it doesn't mean my own personal effort. I mean, I had a number of people who have, during the course of all these years, supported me, and that is why we came up with the, if you want to call it, the winning combination.
The MRC has been winning since 1990, really, in all the leagues. So.
In all the categories?
In nearly all the in nearly all of them, especially the senior crews. Yeah.
Now, to what would you attribute these successes?
Well, basically, it's been a lot of hard work from the oarsmen, the standard of equipment that we've had, buying the new Yolas, and basically a lot of training.
This is the power station that supplies the muscles and the stamina to the MRC crews. Their much celebrated winning streak owes a lot to many hours of grueling training on the ergometers and the weights.
For every 10 or 15 youngsters that we take into the club and teach them the ropes, only 2 or 3 end up continuing in the sport of rowing, because sport of rowing is very, you need to be tough. I mean, it's no question about it that you just can go through a number of years without actually not making an effort at all. It is, you need to put in a great effort to practice rowing. And that is why that out of 10 or 15, we might produce 2 or 3 good oarsmen. And to be able to come up with winning cruises we've had to do, we've gone through, I can tell you that through my 10 years, we must have gone through at least 150, at least 150 youngsters. So, I mean, that is the sort of scenario that you find in rowing.
Are you the best oarsman in MRC or in judo?
Both. I have to be. I suppose, you know, to keep going in this sort of sport for a long time, you have to have the arrogance to believe that you are one of the best, if not the best. You know, otherwise there's no point. You know, it is a very demanding sport, and you always have to win. And to win, you have to be the best.
And what does it take to be the best?
Too much sometimes. You know, I mean, daily training sessions for a start. We all come in here every day. I've just been sitting on this very machine for an hour, you know, which is just about standard daily training for all of us.
7 days a week. Yes.
7 days a week. Yeah.
Dedication, training, it's all combined really. Sort of your effort in training, your ability to train hard to achieve what you want to achieve.
This is all year round sport. You know, we don't have any breaks. There's no lull during the year. I mean, it's all the time training. If we have a break of 2 weeks, that's a long time.
Now, your under-16 crew, how are they shaping up?
The progression really smoothly. It's like all juniors. Initially, you know, the progression is very quick. It's when they get into senior, then, you know, it's slow. But they are getting into.
How long will it take them to progress to senior oarsmen?
They won't make real good oarsmen till about they get the age of 20, when they've been quite a number of years mastering the rowing technique and the sculling technique.
Club president Vicente Latin has been around MRC for over 40 years, but nearly half of that time has been spent negotiating how, when and where would the new clubhouse finally come to rest.
We must realize that the negotiations really started way back in 1969, when we were informed that we would have to move and we couldn't build, we couldn't improve our club at all. Since then, in the early 70s, we were told categorically by government that we had to move. We were told that they would be re-providing not government, whoever took over at the time, it was White's Marina. For the first, I would say since 1979 till about 1988, 89, the negotiations with Marina, or the dealings with Marina, were a bit strange at times. But since there was no real land on which one could build, there was no real point in taking them any further. We just simply put up with whatever we had to at the time.
At the inauguration ceremony, a number of presentations were made, but one was reciprocated, and that was from Eddie Sauer of Marina Bay, who presented the club with a barometer as a token of friendship. That this happy state of relations prevail after the long negotiations for a settlement by Marina Bay is quite remarkable, but I suppose all's well that ends well.
The turning point really was when we actually saw the land, when we stood out there and we saw the two plots, and we decided that this was the plot we wanted. We were in negotiations at the time with Kalpe. In fact, I remember we had something like a 4-hour meeting at the Holiday Inn to sort out who was going to take what side.
Which plot?
Which plot, yeah. And it was interesting. It was an interesting meeting there. And at the end of the day, we both agreed. Kalpe was very keen on that plot, and we were keen on this one as well. So, because we had always envisaged that we would have to build Struct on two levels. So we opted for this one. There was no real hassle there. We opted for the land, and then, since then, the struggle was, there was a point way back in 1991, when the drawings were approved. There was that particular point when Marina was almost at the point of saying, right, okay, I'll build this for you. But then that fell through. And it was not until 1994 that they offered the $500,000, which is what this place has cost to build.
One of the immediate benefits of acquiring new premises is a healthy waiting list of prospective members. The MRC has very good facilities and amenities, but these could be swamped by overcrowding if the influx of new members is not checked.
We've got a staff that big at the moment, about over 120, 130 forms which we have to look into, and that will swell the number of members. Once we do that, then once we know exactly how many wives of members have become members, and we can deduce how many members we are going to have at the end of the day, then we might be able to draw a ceiling, because you can appreciate we have to draw a ceiling somewhere. We can't just keep on having members and new members and new members. It's a place that is a limitation as to how many they can actually, the place can take.
As we all know, we can only reach a certain amount of membership because we don't want to overcrowd the club. And anyway, even having said that, I think what we need to bear in mind is the fact that, as I said before, this is a rowing club, and we need to maintain a certain amount of space, if you want to describe it, in the membership cycle for youngsters, so that we are assured of rowers, be it men or women, in the future.
Whichever way the membership goes, the club's future in the sport rests with the young oarsmen who are being groomed to reach and improve on the standards set by their peers.
Well, I started when I was about 12. I had just been 12. And I'm 17 in a few weeks, so I've been rowing for about 5 years.
5 years, eh? Now, how long have you been a senior oarsman for?
Well, I became a senior oarsman in 1993 when I won the Forestier Walker Challenge Cup. And from then on, I carried on. I've been a senior oarsman from then on.
And you're now in the senior crew, so...
I'm now in the senior crew, yes.
Is this your first season in the senior crew?
My first season in the senior crew, yeah. I've been rowing for the past 4 years in the second crew. And this year I've been moved up to the first crew.
Now, in your 5-year career in rowing, have you had any exciting wins that you remember?
Well, I've had a few wins, which are quite exciting. Probably the most exciting one was a few weeks ago when we broke the mile record here in Jib.
Mm-hmm.
It was quite exciting. It was
By how much did you break it, do you remember?
I think it was about 7 seconds in a time of 5:42.
Is that very difficult, to knock 7 seconds of a standing record?
Well, it is, because most crews, the fastest crews we've had up to now, have more or less been around the 5:49 mark, which has been standing record. So that time was...
Knocking 7 seconds is significant.
Yes, it's quite significant, because 7 seconds in a boat is quite a few lengths.
It's a lot of coordination. The coordination using your power, using your strength, and using your endurance. It's a combination of everything. It's very rhythmical as well.
What about the cox? Nobody really knows what a cox does apart from keeping the boat straight.
Well, as I used to say in the old days, a cox can lose your race. You can very easily lose your race. Every time he steers a boat or jerks the actual rudder, he can actually lose about a length of speed with the other boat. So a cox who is not really switched on can really lose your race, yeah.
Now, you also have a ladies' crew. Are they any good?
They are. The ladies have only started about 4 or 5 years, but so there's still a lot of work to be done with them. But I mean, right now we've got the one crew, and they're really shaping up as well.
We will be treating the men and the women exactly the same. I mean, we will have a certain amount of responsibility towards assuring that the club is represented at the association regattas. And gradually through the years, the number of trophies at stake in relation to women has increased. So it means that the club has a responsibility to produce those crews. I mean, I can tell you that I think it was about a couple of years ago, 2 or 3 years ago, we were able to produce at least 3 or 4 women's crews. But I mean, without being critical of women, they're a volatile bunch. So at times
There are good reasons to lose them sooner than what you lose
That's
males,
right,
obviously.
that's right.
What sort of amenities does a rowing club offer to members who don't take to the boats?
There's the sea bathing facilities are up front. We've got a lounge for the youngsters downstairs, television, table tennis and so on. We've got this main hall, which has facilities for television, small television for those who want to watch
You're
television.
setting up a pool table at the
We've
moment
got
as well.
yes, a snooker table, which in fact has been donated by Stigneto Limited, Louis Stigneto Limited, and we're very grateful to them. In fact, not
That's
just
an
for that, but
expensive
they've
bit of
been.
furniture.
It is an expensive bit of furniture, but they have not just provided that for us. They have, in fact, helped us with a lot of other things.
Do you find that amenities are used a lot by your members? For example,
Well, I can tell you that the sauna downstairs is already almost in full use. So over this weekend, a lot of people have been using it. So I can well envisage that all the facilities will be used. They're all looking forward to the gym coming into operation.
I suppose technically it's a lot harder to keep in shape in the gym. I mean, rowing by definition needs a lot of technique work, and that can only really be achieved in the boat. And you know, hours and hours of rowing out in a boat with the other members of the crew are the only thing that will give you that. Unfortunately, being in Gibraltar, it's very hard to do that because of the conditions in the harbour. The sea isn't always very calm, and it's very hard to. Physically, it's probably easier in our case to get fit in the gym, because we can sit in the rowing machine for an hour and pull hard, which we might not be able to do out in the boat because of sea conditions.
Your captain reckoned that part of the secret, of course, is that you're also good friends. Does that help, do you think?
I think so. I think it's helped us, like I said before, to win the Parale. I mean, that was a core of 4 or 5 of us, and we've kept going for the past 4 or 5 years. And it is important, because it's also good fun to row with your friends and to share. We end up sharing most of our non-working day together. So I mean, you have to be friends, otherwise it's hard.
Will you be able to pass on your philosophy to the up-and-coming juniors?
I hope so. I think we've got a few juniors coming up now, and I think it is important to pass on your philosophy, and I think we will manage it. Yes.
I think the majority of us are proud of what we've been able to produce. This all started again in the late 80s, where we were at a point of having negotiations with Marina Bay, and obviously this were finalized in, I think it was January '95, that's right, and from there on, then we had the contractors coming in and finishing the job. I think it's important to mention the fact that over those 10 years, approximately, or 8 to 10 years, there have been a number of people which have been involved. I mean, I can tell you that initially we had Vicente Latin, the now president, with Alfred Britton and myself were the ones who moved the club in relation to the negotiations with Marina Bay. And then in 2 or 3 years later, I think that we had Mr. De Las Heras and Peter Buttigieg, who were very, I think, they were the movers in relation to moving us to a scenario of convincing people that we needed to move to a different scenario. And this is what happened. And I think we owe them a lot, mainly to Mr. De Las Heras, for moving the club and convincing people that we needed to come into this sort of scenario, which then at this later dates were taken over by Vincent Latin and Charlie Rodriguez, who were again on the question of the sites, and we've ended up with, as I said before and you said, I mean, we are proud of what we've been able to produce.
In fact, even though we knew what we wanted, and we had planned and drawn it as we wanted, we never expected it to finish in the way it has.
It must have been particularly satisfying for you as president to be president at a moment like this.
Yes, it has been. I feel that it's one of those situations which I never expected. I never expected to be president at this time. There have been a lot of other people who've been working very hard in trying to get to this day, and I'm very grateful to the membership, and I'm very grateful to the Lord, if you want, for having given me this opportunity.
And what do you think is going to be the effect on the Mediterranean Rowing Club of having premises of this caliber?
The effect is going to be that, first of all, our rowing potential should improve. Remember that we're now inside the harbour. We're able to train regularly. We don't have the hassle of having to come all the way around the harbour from Bayside. We also have the advantage that we've got facilities for rowing which are second to none, and membership, the youngsters are already beginning to want to trickle in and to join. There should also be an increase in membership. There'll be an automatic increase in membership by virtue of the fact that women are becoming members, and therefore most lady wives will become members. So that would more or less double, or at least increase it by 2/3.
And finally, what do you think about having Calpe Rowing Club as your immediate neighbours? Will this be positive for rowing, do you feel?
I think so. I think that, as I said before, this love-hate relationship that we have is one which augurs well. At the end of the day, remember that Calpe and Med are the only rowing clubs in Gibraltar, and have been working together as a family. We started at the Calpe. We broke away from them because we felt there was a need for competition. We called ourselves Med Rowing Club. Since that day, there was rivalry, but it was always a friendly rivalry. During the war, we were staying with them. Our members lived with them because we didn't have a clubhouse. When they've had problems with boats, they've used our place. We've done joint ventures at the Alameda Gardens, where we used to have the verbenas, when the fair was on, and we used to have joint caseta. So it's It's a situation which I feel, if anything, will enhance rowing and will enhance our relationship.
Who could have foreseen that the Med and the Calpe would be next-door neighbors? And what will that closeness to each other mean? As a rank outsider, I would hedge my bets that the standard of rowing will improve, because competition is keener if you can see what your opponent is up to. There will be few opportunities for surprises from now on, except when the silver starts flowing from one club to the other. Who knows when that will be, with the superiority of MRC today?